Okay, should we start? Good evening and welcome to the March 2023 Cabinet meeting for the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. My name is Stephen Cowan. I'm the leader of the borough, and we have our cabinet here. Can't see any members of the public, so I'll skip the housekeeping points on the basis that we are all fully aware of them. And can we start then with just explanations, introductions of the cabinet? So I've got Councillor Ben Coleman, the deputy leader.
Evening.
Wesley Harcourt,
Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Ecology. Good
Yeah.
evening, everybody.
Sharon Holder, cabinet member for Public Realm.
Good evening.
Rowan Ree, cabinet member for Finance and Public Service Reform.
Good evening.
And then hopping over to my right, we have Councillor Francis Umay, cabinet member for Housing.
Hello.
Councillor Rebecca Harvey, cabinet member for Crime and Social Inclusion.
Hello.
And me again. Oh, where's Bora? There she is. There you are. And Councillor Bora Kwan, cabinet member for Public Realm for
Civic
Renewal.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, Bora. We have a light agenda tonight, so we will move on through it. I will go straight to minutes of the cabinet meeting held on the 6th of February.
Excuse me, leader. You forgot to introduce us.
Sorry, there's people online. Yeah, hello. I've got Councillor Alex Sanderson. And I can see Patricia here, who is an ex officio member of the cabinet. Councillor Patricia Quigley, hello.
Good evening, Councillor Cowan. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Councillor Afzal Khan and I'm Shadow Cabinet Member for Children and Education.
Nice to see you. And Councillor Zarar Khayyam, who's President of our Enterprise Board. Okay, thank you very much. Move straight to the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 6th of February 2023. Are they noted? Anything from them arising?
Agreed.
Are they agreed? Yeah, okay. Apologies for absence. I have Andrew Jones, Cabinet Member for the Economy, who's been struck down with an illness. So please note that. Declarations of interest, are there any? Nope. School budget, dedicated school grant, item number 4, and I'll hand over to Councillor Sanderson.
I can take this one, leader. So this is a largely technical report about the school's budget. So this is agreed by the schools forum. It's the council's role just to ratify this. So that's what we're doing. We're supportive of the budget and the extra funding for certain areas where it's necessary. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Cowan, I have a question.
Yep, sure.
Well, SEND pupils represent 15% of all pupils and EL pupils represent about 21%. And we've seen that recently there's an increase of almost 10% in the health and care plans. Could you kindly explain how the Director for Education and SEND has come up with the figure of 0.5 to 1% of the schools block funding to be transferred to the high needs block? And will that cover the extra funding needed by schools to support its SEND and EL pupils adequately to enable them to access a good quality of education in the borough? Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, this is a budget that's been agreed by the schools forum. So the schools are happy with the figures. We're just ratifying the budget that they've agreed.
And just an added note, if you look at the budget over the last 8 years, and this is the 9th year now, every year we put significantly more into the budget. And most of the cost of that goes into children who require the greatest amount of money to be expended on them. And SEN is one of those areas. So we came into office reversing a trend, which was to cut SEN funding and instead put vastly amount more in. And you'll see that reflected here. I think there are always challenges and we're always cognizant of the need to create better, more holistic services that give parents and children with special educational needs the level of support that they absolutely require. And these are challenging times, but this remains a priority, which is what you see reflected in the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much, then. Is there anything else on this item? Then is that agreed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And then we've got the in-principle approval of the WS contract with a value of up to 14 million. Andrew Jones isn't here. Wesley is here. Wesley. In-principle approval of the contract with the value of up to 14 million. Item number 5. Do you want to talk to that one? Well, it's do you want me to do it then? It was okay. This is a combined report of Councillor Wesley Harcourt and Councillor Andrew Jones. The report is a significant investment into the climate and biodiversity issue around development of economic plans, particularly around our buildings and housing. Would you care to add anything else, Wesley?
Yeah, obviously, this is one of the key priorities for this for the council, and moving forward on this is obviously very important. We're in the process of working out budgets for the various improvements that need to be done, decarbonising council stock and working with the private sector to do the same. So this particular item is of extreme importance.
Yeah. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, all right. Can I ask then for an in-principle agreement? This is a fantastic piece of work. Do we have agreement on that?
Agreed.
All right, thank you very much. I mark that as unanimous. And that then brings us to the item number 6, which is forward plan of key decisions. Are those noted? And I therefore close the meeting. Thank you very much.
I have a couple of questions on some of the key decisions. May I be allowed to ask those
Sure.
questions?
Yep.
Just a couple of questions.
Yep.
On the Helby School Street, key decision, will the Departments of Education and Environment consider involving the law enforcement officers into this program, so pupils can get an education also on how to use their local parks and streets in a lawful and civic manner? This may help bring down teen muggings, littering, antisocial behavior, and drug abuse in the borough. Suggestion. I'll ask my question, then you can choose which ones to answer.
No, I'll happily answer all of them.
Okay,
Look,
thank you.
always happy to involve the law enforcement team. It's a relatively new team. It came about largely because the police numbers have been cut, and we had no control over where police officers are deployed. So we wanted to have a guaranteed law enforcement operation on the streets of Hammersmith and Fulham, and therefore that is their priority, is to go out and work on antisocial behaviour and crime, but also to register where crime is happening and then keep a record of that crime. Now that is a full-time job, which is why we've got 72 of them, and it's not a PR job. Although there is, like the police, always a public engagement role, and children, the next generation, are very important to that. I don't think them training people on, they would be the right people to train people on the art of being a good citizen. I know that is something that Jackie McShannon and I talk about a lot, is what do we do to bring up rounded citizens who are going to contribute to society, and not least, very minimum, be law-abiding. But bigger than that, be a rounded citizen. But it's not the role of a law enforcement team. And just on the law enforcement team, there are four. They don't stand alone. You have a law enforcement team who are doing as I described. You have the gangs unit, which is tackling children, stopping them getting press ganged into a type of slavery, which is around being members of gangs. And we have a very strong unit in that. We have our CCTV operation, which keeps people safe. And then we have other aspects to it, which is now very important, like our women and girls safety strategy. And those four key prongs are additional to working with the police, whose job it is ultimately to catch and arrest people and to keep people safe from really very serious crime. But you're quite right to raise the point that presenting crime starts with giving people a confidence that there is a law-abiding society, they have a role to play in it, and that starts at schools, and that's something that goes right from the vein of everything we do in education. And you know, I'm sure there might be time and space where our law enforcement people are working with schools. For example, they've met all the head teachers in their wards, and they work very closely to deal with bullying. You will often see our law enforcement teams outside the school gates in order to protect children. So there is quite a comprehensive program, which I think is implicit in your question, that's already there, but I don't think we'd take it any further to have them as being educators. I think we'd keep that separate. Would you have more questions?
Yes, just brief ones. So I have one question about the Bishop's Park Improvement Programme, and I was wondering, will the Bishop's Park Improvement Programme include painting the railings on the Riverside Walk and maintaining the parts so the no cycling slabs are visible to cyclists and e-bike users?
Well, we've recently passed guidance and rules to enforce e-cycling on the Riverside, and that does cover some of our parks. And therefore, we're sort of in a two-sided position, which is, on the one hand, most cyclists are very courteous, and we want to encourage people out of their cars onto bicycles or other forms of active travel, because the level of toxic air in Hammersmith and Fulham is particularly bad. Because we've got Heathrow, we're at a main junction with two main motorways running through and lots of other roads. We're often used as a cut through. So getting people other options to travel does mean more and better cycle lanes, and some of that is through the parks. So we want more cyclists using the parks as, you know, as safe ways. But what we don't want is Deliveroo drivers and Eat drivers rushing through at 30 miles an hour on electric bikes, scaring the hell out of people. So we therefore tightened the legislation in order to be able to find those people and to stop that type of activity. And that will be something that we're doing part of a comprehensive program, not just for Bishop's Park, but across the whole borough on all spaces like the riverfront, where there is assured space where pedestrians and cyclists work. I would say it's fair to say that we're seeing a transition in the way people transport themselves around big cities. You know, you know, if you go to Paris or Amsterdam, Rome, even New York, there are cycle lanes going in everywhere, and you see people on electric scooters, on electric bicycles and other mechanisms. On the one hand, that's very good because it is cleaning the air and protecting the environment and essentially making it a more livable space, but it can frighten particularly older people, and that's why getting that balance right is something that Bram is working on and is very focused on. So that's within that, but and it's so and Bishop Park will, as a part of the borough, will be included in all those plans.
You've partially answered my final question, which was, you know, the residents of borough who are, and this is about the decision on whether to introduce public space protection order in relation to the use of e-scooters and e-bikes. And I was just going to ask that the residents of the borough who are partially sighted or blind or pregnant or on mobility scooters, they've had to bear the harsh consequences of e-scooters and e-bikes being left on pavements, walking pathways, in front of shops and street corners. Can you kindly explain when this significant minority of the borough's residents will be consulted and action taken that is fair and respectful of their rights to enjoy the borough as well?
So there's a mistake which is implicit in your question when you say, will they be consulted? We've consulted very actively with the Disabled People's Commission throughout on all sorts of traffic issues. And actually, one of the first things we did when we came into office was to start proactively consulting instead of waiting for something to be a problem. They have been consulted. The issue around people using the renters electric bikes on the pavements is an issue that's right across London. And we're working on how can we find better spaces for people to leave these bicycles that don't block people and cause particular problems for blind people or people who have other challenges walking along the road. So that is something that we are looking at. We're trying to do that with other boroughs. So there's a comprehensive program across London. But we're very aware that as transport changes, there are going to be a lot more of these types of things. And what we have to do is try and make it sure it works for everybody. And if you are blind and someone's just carelessly left a bicycle they've rented on the middle of the street. It's just unacceptable for people to have done that. And if they won't behave with courtesy, we need to find a way of policing that. And that's what we're working across London and across parties with trying to do that. I understand they have the problem in every single London borough. And, you know, people tend not to see borough boundaries when they hire one of these bikes. They don't think I'm just going to cycle within Hammersmith from Fulham. They might cycle to Kensington, to Chiswick, to Putney or wherever. And so it's a common problem that we need to have a common solution to.
Thank you very much.
Okay. If there are no more questions, then I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in and good night.